Okay, a little bit more in the academic side of audio. Um, you know, you can look at the history of audio in a number of different ways, and it's kind of, in some ways, it's kind of bland. When you do general searches on audio history, this is the kind of stuff you get. It's well, we first recorded things in this phonograph, and it was plastic. Wax or plastic cylinders, and then that evolved to LPs and then tape. All this here, by the way, is all analog. This is all analog representations of music recording, and it's not till relatively recently with CDs and digital code that we now have audio in digital format. So this is what it is. It's not really that interesting to me per se. What I really like about audio is what is being done with it now. So, sonic branding is a huge deal right now, and every company, big or small, if they're trying to market themselves, they always come up with, that signature sound so that when you hear it, you know what company you're interacting with, you know what product you're interacting with. And we all know these. I'll play a short YouTube video right now just to demonstrate a couple. Yeah, so those are the what we used to call jingles, but it's really a very, very serious business, and they spend a lot of money and hire uh, a certain group of people are really, really good at this and knowing how to make three or four notes into something that people are it's going to stick with them, and they're going to understand it, and they're going to relate to it. It's really a huge business. Other types of things that happen with audio engineering in general is audio is really, really important with many of the products that we use, and golf clubs are no different. They actually engineer the inside of a driver, a golf driver. There's physics going on inside there. The amount of space inside the structure, inside the metals that they use on the outside. They're trying to create that beautiful ping sound that golfers like. It makes them feel good, whether they hit the ball correctly or not. But this is a really sophisticated recording device, and it's called a binaural array, and it's supposed to represent a how a human being would hear these sounds. And so engineers actually record these sounds and go back to the shop, so to speak, and they design the golf clubs to get that ping. And they spend a lot of money. This particular item here is about $8,000, or maybe even more now. They're made by a company called Neumann, and they make very, very highly expensive microphones. But this also happens in the world of audio too. I don't know if you drive a BMW, you may or may not know this, but engine sound is being ported out your speakers, and they actually engineer that. And if you look into it deep enough, you'll see that some of these engine noises, and BMW isn't the only one, but some of these engine noises are a blend of engine noise, but other animals too, like a lion's roar, and just a whole, a blend of different frequencies and tones because people want to hear that engine roar. And with cars getting quieter and quieter, they always try to engineer the compartment of the car so that it's extremely quiet. You don't hear the road noise and all that. That's part of the luxury of it. However, that takes away from hearing the engine sound, so they compensate for that by engineering sounds. Sounds crazy, but it's true. And there's a way to shut that off. Real car enthusiasts know they can go under the hood and shut that off if they're purists. But again, I brought this up in one of the videos, but if you didn't watch it, these are Foley artists. This is kind of a blurry photo. I'm sorry about that, but I'm just pulling these down off the internet. But they have a whole bunch of things here, an old-fashioned telephone and spoons and, dirt. And they are watching a reference monitor. And this is probably a highly produced film. And this is the way they do it. They go into a sound studio or a room like this, and they make the sounds in sync with the video they're watching. And this is very, very typical in the industry. They are very, very talented people. All the sounds, I said this in another video, I don't know if you happen to watch that one, but when you're watching like a movie about sports and there's the crowd is cheering, when they filmed that, the crowd was silent and they were just acting, mimicking like they were cheering and shaking their arms back and forth and opening their mouths, and they were just mimicking it. And then that crowd noise was put in afterwards. I would say that 99% of the sound that you hear in any film or television show or streaming show is put in post-production. But I'm more into the sound and how it relates to nature and us as beings. So what I found interesting was that scientists were studying beavers because they're such good engineers. They just know they can stop water from moving and they can create a pond. And it's pretty remarkable. But one of the things that's even more remarkable is that scientists took a tape recorder of trickling water, and they put it over a dam, and the beavers will come over and slap mud on it because they hear the trickling water. It's as if it's in their DNA to stop water from trickling. And it's just amazing to me. I told my wife this story when we were on a hike once. We went by a beaver pond, and I told her this story, and she said, "Oh yeah, well, when our son was born," this isn't her, this is not my son, but she said when our son was born, when he cried, there was, nothing could stop her from going to him when he was crying. And I said, "Oh yeah, it must be, a woman's thing." And, I'm being that kind of guy, and I'm saying, it must be, you hear a baby's cry and women react. And she said, no. She said, when he cried, she could hear another baby cry. And yeah, she felt something, but it wasn't what she felt when he cried. So it's, again, I think there's more to sound than we think or we perceive. And I think it goes a lot deeper. I think sound is a frequency and it goes a lot deeper. Now, this is one of my heroes. A lot of musicians are heroes of mine, but this is an old timer. And he was in a band called the Doobie Brothers. If you've ever heard of them, they're many, many hit records. And he's still around. He's actually a scientist. He's pretty up there, brilliant type of guy, and he works actually for government agencies around defense because he's quite brilliant. So I'm going to play a short video of him discussing frequencies and vibration and why they're important.
Well, one of the guys that was on the laser advisory team with me, it was funny, the director said, "I want two guys. I want a Grammy winner and I want a Nobel Prize winner, and I want to put them on the same team." So I guess I was the Grammy winner. And Charlie Towns, does anybody know who Charlie is? Charlie won the Nobel Prize for inventing the laser. Very, very interesting guy, very laid-back guy. After breaking the problem down into what is reality, what are we made of, where do we come from, et cetera, into a set of finite pieces and resynthesizing him, he came up with the idea that the human spirit is as a set of coherent oscillations. Now, any of you who have taken any physics know that the glue that holds the universe together, for everything from subatomic particles to the planets, to solar systems, to stars, to galaxies, to galaxy clusters, has to do with vibration and frequency. That is the name of the game. So he said, I think the human spirit is this concept of coherent oscillations. And I said, Charlie, that's what music is. Coherent oscillations, this string vibrating with this string, and vibrating with this string, and this one, in a set of coherent oscillations. And he said, Skunk, you got it. That's the secret to the universe. Why does music touch us so deeply? It's because the molecules that are made up of the atoms, very simple, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, that make up our bodies are glued together by different frequencies. Now, you're going to say to me, well, that's a little weird. Well, let me help you understand it, because you, as a human being, are as a very sophisticated sensor package. Vibration starts from no vibration all the way down a linear path to pure energy. Einstein talked a little bit about that when he came up with the equation energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Well, how do you know that? Well, have you ever felt a rumble that you can't hear, but you feel it? So there's part of your body is telling you that there's a vibration. You can't hear it, but you can feel it. Next, it goes on to the part about 20 cycles per second up to about 20,000 cycles per second. Actually, about 17 for men, about 20,000 for women. And then it disappears. Then the only beings that can hear above 20,000 cycles are dogs. Their hearing is attuned slightly higher. But then even that goes away. So all of a sudden you're running down this linear progression and it stops. And then all of a sudden your skin starts to feel warm. Up. Now we're in the infrared, heat. Now the vibrations are getting faster and faster and we feel the heat. And the vibrations get so fast that it turns to color. If I strike this string, that's A440, below middle C. That means that this string vibrates 440 times per second. Now, if I take the number 440, multiply it times 10 to the 23rd power times Planck's constant, which is a very spooky little number, you get the color green. Because what we're talking about is super harmonics, going higher and higher into the frequency spectrum. And as the pitch gets higher, it goes past where you can hear and then goes someplace else. After the visual, it goes into the ultraviolet, and then we start to get into gigahertz, radars, radio waves. Super harmonics, very simple. This is A440. What's this? A880. What's this? A1620. What we're doing is we're doubling the harmonics until finally we get to a point where we can't hear it. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So what Charlie Towns is saying, that we are all coherent vibrations on a linear scale from zero to light, or to pure energy, actually. And that's why music moves us, because the molecules of the atoms and the subatomic particles that make up our bodies are held together with vibration. Why do you think they call it the blues?
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this a little bit more than boring technical stuff. You can always resource that information, but I kind of lean toward more of the human stuff around audio and basically just frequencies in general, because frequencies are everything, as we heard in that video, and they go down this continuum from nothing to who knows where it goes at the other end. But